It was just after Halloween in 2011, when the quiet town of Dyersburg, Tennessee, would be forever changed by a mystery that still haunts it to this day. A mother, a wife, and a beloved community figure vanished into the night, leaving behind only a shredded tire, a locked car, and 1,000 unanswered questions. This is the haunting story of the Halloween murder of Karen Swift. Before we dive into this chilling case, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, Unsolved True Crimes, and turn on notifications. Every week, we uncover stories that deserve to be heard, cases still waiting for justice, and questions still without answers. Karen Johnson Swift was born on January 25, 1967, in Dyersburg, Illinois. Adopted as a baby along with 4 siblings by Gary and Carol Johnson, she grew up in a warm, close-knit family. From an early age, Karen was full of life, athletic, driven, and determined to make the most of every opportunity. She ran track throughout high school, collecting trophies from countless 5K races, and that passion followed her into adulthood. Years later, she would go on to finish 22nd among all women running the St. Jude Marathon, an achievement that qualified her for the prestigious Boston Marathon. People around Dyersburg knew Karen for her energy. She was a personal trainer at the YMCA, where her boss, Randy Butler, said she had an incredible way of inspiring others. When she wasn't teaching aerobics or helping clients, she worked extra jobs cleaning houses and doing landscaping. She was always moving, always pushing forward. But behind the smiles and success, Karen's personal life was far more complicated. She had married David Swift on September 23, 1989. They built a family together, raising 4 children: Preston, Dustin, Ashley, and Keely. For years, it looked like the perfect picture of suburban stability. But those who knew them best say cracks had already begun to form beneath the surface. In 2000, after more than a decade together, the couple divorced following David's affair, which had resulted in a child with another woman. And yet, in a strange turn of events, they remarried that very same year. Friends would later describe it as a cycle that defined their relationship: separations, reconciliations, and David's growing need for control. Karen's close friend, Kathy Boner, would later tell investigators that David was constantly watching, listening, and belittling Karen. He'd call her incessantly, once, 25 times in less than 30 minutes. But in 2011, something changed. Karen began to reclaim her independence. She became more social, more confident, more alive. She joined a new circle of friends at the farm's golf club and began going out more often. Friends said she seemed to be rediscovering herself after years of being under someone else's shadow. David, however, saw it differently. He told people his wife was going through a midlife crisis, drinking more, partying too much, spending time with what he called the wrong people. He painted her as a woman who had lost her way. Her daughter Ashley saw the change too and begged her mom to stay home more. But Karen had made up her mind. On October 10, 2011, just 20 days before she disappeared, she filed for divorce again. She wanted half the house, full custody of the kids, and $1,400 per month child support. David's monthly income was listed $8,500. Around the same time, she also got a second cell phone from her friends Bill and Kathy Boner. It was meant for private conversations with her divorce attorney, Jason Chessie, because she believed David was monitoring her calls. Then came the night everything changed. Saturday, October 29, 2011, the weekend before Halloween, the farm's golf club was hosting its annual costume party, and Karen arrived dressed as Catwoman. Friends Bill and Kathy Boner picked her up, and though she looked stunning, something about her energy felt off. Her friend Jenny Gurian remembered Karen saying she wasn't having a good time, which was unusual for someone usually known as the life of the party. Witnesses said she'd had altercations that night, tensions with at least 2 women, one of whom was the daughter of a well-connected man in the community. Around midnight, she left with the Boners and went to their home, planning to spend the night. But then her 9-year-old daughter, Ashley, called from a sleepover. She wasn't feeling well and wanted to come home. Karen didn't hesitate. She drove off into the night to pick her up. It was around 1:30 to 2 a.m. when Karen returned home. David later said he stayed awake to make sure they got in safely. He spoke briefly with her before she went to bed with their daughter. At 2:08 a.m., Karen's phone connected to the home Wi-Fi. At 4:38 a.m., it disconnected for the last time. At 5:04 a.m., the phone's signal moved to an area of interest. By 5:09, all activities stopped forever. The next morning, Ashley woke up in a different room. Her mother was gone. David claimed he didn't realize Karen was missing until around 10 a.m., but something didn't add up. At 9:55 that morning, someone had accessed the voicemail of Karen's secret phone. The device connected to the Swift home's Wi-Fi at that exact moment. This meant that whoever checked the voicemail was inside the house before anyone publicly reported her missing. Only one adult was confirmed to be home that morning, David Swift. Later that day, two hunters made a chilling discovery. A white 2004 Nissan Murano sat abandoned along Millsfield Highway, less than a mile from the Swift home. The doors were locked. Her Halloween costume was inside. Her purse was missing, and the right front tire completely shredded. Investigators found something deeply suspicious: a screw embedded at a perfect 90-degree angle into the tread.
I think it was sabotage.
Why?
Because when we observed the car, we noticed a screw in the tire.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at this very closely, this screw is above the tire tread. It appears that this screw was mainly inserted into the tire.
It was literally screwed into the tire.
Literally screwed into the tire. And my theory was right once we sent it off for forensic analysis.
It didn't look like road debris. It looked deliberate. When friends noticed the car and called the sheriff, David still hadn't reported her missing. He only called after the Boners did. Police began an extensive search. Deputies, K-9 units, Tennessee Highway Patrol teams, and volunteers, more than 300 people, combed the woods, fields, and rivers around Dyersburg. Even the Nevada First Lady, Dawn Gibbons, joined the search. But day after day, they found nothing. Then came November. Search teams focused on the area around Bledsoe Cemetery. They found no trace of Karen. Yet 3 separate witnesses reported seeing a man with a metal detector wandering the cemetery grounds around that time. Karen's son, Dustin, even approached the man, who claimed he was looking for a lost watch. But Dustin noticed something odd. The man already had a watch on his wrist. That same month, someone broke into the farm's golf club. Nothing was stolen, except for the security cameras. Cameras that might have shown who Karen argued with that night at the Halloween party. Then, on December 10, 2011, 42 days after Karen vanished, a caretaker near Bledsoe Cemetery made a grim discovery. Hidden beneath thick vines and undergrowth, just 20 feet from the road, was a body.
This is the kudzu that was...
This is the kudzu area. And all of this was in kudzu. Every bit of this was in kudzu.
So it was hiding everything here?
Yes, and the body was found somewhere in this area, maybe near that tree stump.
Dental records confirmed what everyone feared. It was Karen Swift. The autopsy was devastating. Karen had died from blunt force trauma to the head. Her skull fractured across the front and side. The medical examiner said the likely weapon was a hammer or a similar object. She was found wearing only her black underwear, pulled down around her thighs. The level of decomposition made it impossible to determine whether she'd been sexually assaulted. There were no defensive wounds, no chance to fight back. It was an ambush. No drugs, no alcohol. Only traces of caffeine and a common sleep aid. The medical examiner ruled her death a homicide. Detectives searched the Swift home and garage multiple times, along with both of their vehicles. No blood, no signs of struggle, no clear forensic evidence. Yet 7 gallons of bleach were photographed outside the garage. Prosecutors later theorized David had used them to clean the scene. His explanation: the bleach was for cleaning up after their dog, which he said had been poisoned by a neighbor. The containers were never tested. Neighbors, however, remembered something else. One of them testified that, in the days after Karen's disappearance, a strong chemical smell came from the direction of the Swift home. Still, investigators had no DNA linking David or anyone else to the murder. Months turned into years, and the case began to stall. But the deeper detectives looked, the more the focus returned to one man, David Swift. Sheriff Jeff Box said it plainly: "We have ruled out everyone except the victim's spouse. He wasn't just a person of interest. He was the only one left." David's behavior only fueled suspicion. He never joined the searches, never called to check on the investigation, and seemed more focused on criticizing Karen's lifestyle than finding her. Her friends said the same thing. He was controlling, obsessive, always monitoring her. He'd show up uninvited at restaurants, call nonstop, even asked to use a neighbor's garden so he could spy on Karen's friends. Meanwhile, investigators discovered he had been visiting dating sites hundreds of times during the exact period when his wife was missing. They also found the secret phone number, Karen's private line, saved in his work phone, despite his claim he didn't know it existed. And when someone accessed that voicemail from inside the home at 9:55 a.m., only David was there. It was a case filled with contradictions, suspicions, and devastating questions. Questions that would soon explode into a courtroom nearly 13 years later. The investigation into Karen Swift's death would stretch on for more than a decade, marked by frustration, dead ends, and the haunting silence of unanswered questions. For years, the community of Dyersburg watched, waiting for someone to be held accountable, but every lead seemed to dissolve into uncertainty. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation scoured the Swift property multiple times. Forensic experts tore through the home, garage, and vehicles, yet found nothing conclusive. No fingerprints tied anyone to the crime scene. No traces of Karen's blood were found anywhere. Not even the shredded tire yielded usable DNA. The only physical clue that stood out was that suspicious screw in Karen's tire. Tire expert Gary Baldwin would later testify that its placement, perfectly perpendicular to the tread, was not something that could happen naturally. It had been manually inserted, and Karen had driven less than a mile before the tire gave out. That distance matched almost exactly the route from her home to the spot where her car was discovered. The prosecution's theory began to take shape. They believed David Swift had sabotaged the tire to stage a fake abduction, one that would mask a much darker truth, but the lack of hard evidence made the case difficult to move forward. For years, David remained free, quietly building a new life. He moved out of state, remarried, and tried to leave the shadow of Dyersburg behind. But that shadow followed him everywhere. Privately, Karen's mother, Carol Johnson, refused to give up. She called the sheriff's office year after year, asking if there was any progress. She wanted answers. She wanted justice for her daughter. Meanwhile, others began to dig where the police wouldn't. Private investigator Heather Cohen picked up the case after hearing from Karen's friends and family. What she uncovered would lead to one of the most controversial claims surrounding the entire investigation. Cohen said that Karen had confided in her best friend about being involved in something she wasn't proud of. She hinted at risky photos, wealthy people, and money that came with strings attached. Karen's friend, Aaron Gray, told Cohen that Karen had gotten herself into a mess, that she didn't know how to escape, but that it had nothing to do with her husband. That mess, Cohen believed, might have been connected to a secret social circle within Dyersburg's upper class, a private world of parties, money, and relationships that crossed dangerous lines. Cohen claimed law enforcement ignored these leads entirely. She later published a book titled Swift Injustice: The Murder of Karen Swift, alleging that the investigation had been mishandled to protect certain people in the community. Then came one of the most haunting details of all. During the November search, weeks before Karen's body was found, multiple witnesses saw a man with a metal detector near the very area where her remains would later be discovered. He said he was searching for a watch he'd lost, but according to Karen's son Dustin, the man was already wearing one. He was never identified publicly, and police never seemed to pursue him. To this day, many still question who that man really was and why he was there. Years passed. The Swift family tried to move on, but the wound never healed. Karen's children grew up under a cloud of grief and suspicion. Her mother, Carol, kept her daughter's photo on the mantle, lighting a candle beside it every Halloween. And then, out of nowhere, there was a break. On August 8, 2022, nearly 11 years after Karen's murder, David Swift was arrested in Birmingham, Alabama, where he'd been living with his new wife. A Dyer County grand jury had indicted him for first-degree premeditated murder. For Karen's family, the call came from Sheriff Jeff Box himself. He had promised Carol Johnson that one day there would be justice. It was emotional, he said later. She just wanted justice for her daughter. David was released on a $200,000 bond and returned to Alabama while awaiting trial. But his freedom didn't last long. In 2023, he was arrested again, this time for stalking his second wife, Kelly Esmond. Authorities found surveillance footage showing David outside Kelly's home in the middle of the night. She told ABC's 2020, "He had to drive 40 minutes one way just to get to my house. I think about how easily I believed everything he told me." The stalking charges led to his bond being revoked. David was sent back to Dyer County Jail, awaiting trial for Karen's murder. When the trial finally began on May 28, 2024, it was one of the most closely watched cases in Tennessee. The venue had been moved to Dresden to ensure a fair jury. For 8 days, prosecutors laid out their theory that David Swift had killed his wife in the garage between 2:08 a.m. and 5:04 a.m. on the morning of October 30, 2011. They said he had cleaned the scene with bleach, disposed of the body, sabotaged the tire, abandoned the car, and destroyed both of Karen's phones, all while hiding behind a knee injury he used to build an alibi. Prosecutor Danny Goodman told the jury this rejection was eating at David. He began to understand that Karen was truly leaving him, and this time, it was forever. But the defense painted a very different picture. They argued that David's knee injury made it physically impossible for him to commit the crime. They called witnesses who said he could barely walk without pain, and they brought 2 of David and Karen's children to the stand. Ashley Swift became a crucial defense witness. Through tears, she testified that it was her mother, not her father, who had moved her to another room that night. "I will go to my grave knowing it was my mother," she said firmly. She described her father as a caring parent who supported her, helped her with her car, and even paid for groceries for families in need. Her brother Dustin echoed her words, saying he never saw anything unusual in the home after their mother vanished. The jury listened to 36 witnesses for the prosecution and 12 for the defense. But without physical evidence, no DNA, no fingerprints, no blood, everything hinged on circumstantial proof. When closing arguments ended, the courtroom fell silent as the jury retired to deliberate. Hours passed. Then word came that one juror had broken the rules, searching the term reasonable doubt on the internet. Judge Mark Hayes warned the panel to continue deliberating, but by noon the next day, the jurors were hopelessly deadlocked. Finally, after 11 hours of debate, they returned with their decision. Not guilty of first-degree murder, not guilty of second-degree murder, not guilty of attempted murder. The only charge they couldn't agree on, voluntary manslaughter. Judge Hayes declared a mistrial on that single count. But the story didn't end there. Just weeks later, in June 2024, a Dyer County grand jury re-indicted David Swift on charges of voluntary manslaughter and aggravated assault. Prosecutors argued this would toll the statute of limitations, but the defense immediately pushed back, saying too much time had passed. And in March 2025, Judge Hayes agreed. He ruled that the statute of limitations had expired and dismissed the case entirely. David Swift walked free. For Karen's family, it was a crushing blow. More than 13 years after her death, no one had been convicted. Her father, Gary Johnson, passed away in 2018, never knowing what really happened to his daughter. Her mother, Carol, still lives with that pain every day. In one interview, she said softly, "It still hurts every day to know that somebody took my baby, killed her, and threw her out like a rag doll. It breaks my heart." Karen's purse was never found. The murder weapon never recovered. And the biggest question of all still hangs in the air. Who called Karen's secret phone voicemail at 9:55 a.m. from inside the Swift home? If it was David, why lie about not knowing the phone existed? If it wasn't him, then who else was there that morning? And what about the strong chemical smell neighbors reported in the days after she disappeared? The man with the metal detector at the cemetery? The missing security cameras from the country club? The mysterious mess Karen told her friend about? And the $10,000 she received from someone she wouldn't name? So many pieces. So many shadows. More than a decade later, the murder of Karen Swift remains officially unsolved. It's a story of love, control, secrecy, and silence. A mystery that has torn a family apart and left a small Tennessee town forever changed. And as the years go by, one question still echoes across Dyersburg. If David Swift didn't kill Karen, then who did? And that is the haunting mystery of the Halloween murder of Karen Swift. What do you think really happened to Karen Swift? Tell us your thoughts below. And if you believe stories like this one deserve the spotlight, don't forget to subscribe for more real, emotional, and unsolved true crime cases every week.